Disclaimer. When I test the string, I test it on my violin. And I play the violin and play it with my bow. It is always very subjective. So please keep that in mind, and the best thing you can do is form your own opinion and test the strings out. The only thing I can do is give you a glimpse of what the string can do on a violin and to compare it to other strings as well. Thank you very, very much to polychord.com for sponsoring me with strings and helping me with my YouTube channel. If you want to support me, check out their homepage. They are a great shop. They deliver very quick inside of Europe. Definitely, if you live in Europe, consider to buy strings from them. They have the best support I ever encountered in an online shop for strings and violin equipment. So I will link polychord.com in the description. Go there. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I will give you a review on the new Larsen Il Cannone strings, which I tested for the last 2 to 3 months. This video is about the Larsen Il Cannone strings in medium tension. I'm still going to test the solo version as well. That will take me around 2 months as well, because I want to give a full review and not just a first impression of the strings. My first impression of the strings you could have followed in the live stream I made. I did not upload the video because I had some serious sound issues and technical issues in this live stream. But if you followed the live stream, you maybe remember that the initial sound on the Il Cannone strings was very metallic. Especially the G string, the D string and the A string had a lot of overtones, but not from the good kind, but more the metallic, which you don't really like under the ear on the violin. This is very usual for new strings, and especially Larsen strings are known for being metallic in the beginning. I know this from the Virtuoso, I know this from the regular Larsen and also from the Tzigane. I remember that they sound very metallic in the beginning, but they settle after 2 to 3 days and get a very clear sound, especially the Virtuoso strings. Also, my other first impression was that the G strings sounded a little bit boxy and lacks the real bass sound and a gutsy sound. It was also very hard under the bow. About the E string, I also cannot say very positive things about the beginning when I put the strings on. I felt that the E string was quite inconsistent and some notes really stood out. The positive thing about the string is that they sounded from the beginning very powerful. You can hear yourself always if you play in an ensemble, and you can project very well if you know how to do this. The tension of the Larsen Il Cannone strings is very different to the Larsen Virtuoso strings. The Larsen Virtuoso strings are one of the strings with the least tension. The tension of the Larsen Il Cannone strings is in the midfield and can be compared to the Peter Infeld strings or even the Eva Perazzi Gold strings. But keep in mind that the tension doesn't really mean so much. There are 2 things to consider. First thing is the spread. Not every string is the same. You have the same brand, same string, but it can be different from time to time. And also there's the fact that the string expands when you put it on the violin over the weeks, and the tension also changes when the material changes and expands and gets harder. The numbers you get from the companies who produce strings are always relative, because you have to consider the spread and the expanding and changing of the material when you put the strings under tension. So it makes the whole thing about the tension charts quite silly. This is why I don't put the tension chart right here. You can look up the tension on the Larsen homepage, but as I said, it doesn't mean that the tension after 3 months or after 2 weeks is the same. It can be very different depending on the material, depending on the changes the material will go through. When we talk about tension, we always talk about playability. So the playability of the Il Cannone strings under the left hand was quite in the midfield. There's quite some resistance to the left hand and also to the bow, so it doesn't feel like a low tension string, which it also isn't. But I have to say that the Peter Infeld strings, while being in the same lick, considering the string tension, feel much softer. But with the Il Cannone strings, it is still possible to play in high positions with ease. Also, the feeling under the bow is very different to the Larsen Virtuoso strings. It has quite some resistance and you have to use your bow in a very different manner. For example, you cannot go too close to the bridge, and on the G string you have to find the right contact point to produce a warm and good sound. I have not experienced any whistling with the E string, that I have to say. After 3 to 4 weeks, which is quite a long period, I felt that the strings would settle a little bit. The metallic sound stayed quite a long time. I didn't have to play so much at that time, so the playing in of the strings could have taken a little bit more time. But usually I need 2 or 3 sessions of playing the violin for 2 to 3 hours, and then the strings I use are settled in, and the changes over the time will be not so noticeable. But with the Larsen Il Cannone strings, it took such a long time to get rid of this metallic sound that I also played with the idea of switching the strings out for concerts. Then after 3 to 4 weeks, the metallic sound suddenly fainted and it left me with some really nice, colorful sound possibilities. Also, the A, D and G string sounded very balanced to me and were quite easy to play. After maybe 2.5 months, the strings were settled all right. So now we can talk about them as a settled string, and they really now feel like a normal string to me. They still have a lot of power, but they have lost most of this metallic sound. They still are quite hard under the bow, and since I have the Il Cannone strings on my violin, my wolf note on the violin got really bad, so that I experienced a wolf note on the D string, on the 3rd position, on the C, as well on the G string, of course. After 2.5 months, it sounded like this. I know that the strings are very different, but I want to compare the Il Cannone strings to the Larsen Virtuoso strings, because they are from the same brand, and usually when Larsen Strings brought out a new string, I always felt like that it was a step up and a higher quality, and some of the concepts of Larsen Strings were improved. This time I feel different. This time I feel that they wanted to produce a string which complements their usual product range, which includes the Larsen Virtuoso, the Larsen Zigane and the regular Larsen strings. So I think the Larsen Il Cannone have to be very different, and some fans of Larsen strings, especially the virtuoso strings, could be offended by the difference in the concept of the string. But I think they are a good complement to the Larsen Virtuoso strings. Yet I think that for soloist purposes I would be better off with a high tension virtuoso string, which I liked very much, and maybe also other brands like the Peter Infalt string, and also I really like the Eva Pirazzi strings, which have just the downside that their lifespan is very low. So we have on one hand the virtuoso strings, which are very easy to play and have a very fine sound, very clear, very easy to the bow as well. On the other hand, we have the Il Cannone strings, which are to produce a gutsy, powerful, projecting sound with a more multi-dimensional sound concept. I have to say that also the Larsen Virtuoso strings can project very well, but their capabilities of producing different colors is more limited than the Il Cannone strings. So I hope the video clarified my opinion about the Il Cannone strings. I will definitely keep them in mind. They will not be a string which I will settle on. I feel a little bit reminded to the Jager superior strings, which I tested as well. They have some really modern sound to it and have a really strong core. But to me, and for my violin especially, it feels like it is a little bit too much. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a thumbs up If you like the video, please leave a like. It really helps me very much. Write a comment. I really want to know your opinion about those strings. And as always, have fun practicing.